problems of physical scarcity, we introduce a very difficult psychological problem to ourselves, which is like, you're safe, you have everything you need. Now, who do you want to be? The velocity.
This is MongolianMindset, and today we're going to be typing Mark Manson for one of our subscribers. They've asked me for this guy for quite a bit now. Sorry, man. I'm going to do him today for you. So you guys know we're using Linda Barrens Interaction style combined with cognitive functions to find their personality type. Let's go check and see what the monkeys got over there at Personality Database. They have them as an ENTP. You know, we don't think highly of those guys, and whatever they vote, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. These are the metrics that we're going to be looking for. As I get them, I will explain them, and we'll go through it that way. With these metrics, we're able to use the handy dandy chart here, and then you can able to triangulate down and find the personality type. Okay. And we are still doing the free typing sessions. All you have to do is join our Facebook group. Well, subscribe, join our Facebook group, and message Cody, our moderator. It's Cody. He has like I forget exactly what hat he has on, even though I see it every day. He has some type of hat on or something. Damn, I fucking forgot. I don't know what the fuck he has on. But click on that, message Cody. He'll get back to you and he'll set up a date for you to be typed by us. Like we said, we do this free. Some people are charging $500 to $100 to $200. We're doing this shit absolutely free. So the least you motherfuckers can do is subscribe to the channel. We love you guys. And you know, we continue to give back. Like we said in the group, you can ask us any question, ask me anything. When it comes to financing, I hate to say it, but picking up women as well. Dating, anything you want to ask me, stocks related, man, I got you. You just message me. Don't blow up my damn inbox. But yeah, let's get into this.
Of the success really made me feel trapped. I always feel weird when I talk about this on podcasts, because what is more unrelatable than a guy who like sold 10 million books and then got depressed? What amazes me is that the solution's exactly the same.
Oh my God, we already starting this shit out. It just started, and I'm hearing more suffering. More suffering. Oh goddamn. That sounds like some SI inferior already.
Same. So here's the dirty little secret about all your favorite personal development authors. The reason we write the book.
Do you share, a little bit about that time in your life, what unfolded, and how that radically changed who you are and how you view yourself?
Sure.
Starting with the light topics here.
Yeah, right. So when I was 19, well, to back up just a little bit, like, give you a sense of who I was as a teenager. I was.
Let me back up because I got to give you the whole progression.
Lost. I was stoner, lazy, failed classes. Very like not only unmotivated to really pursue anything in life, but also too scared to actually pursue anything in life, and but wasn't self-aware enough to realize that. And so I had a good friend named Josh, and he was kind of a party buddy that I had in music school.
See, when I told you guys earlier in the other videos, it's a quick way to find out someone's informative. If when they talk, a lot of times I feel like they're talking away from the mic. They say this is abstraction here, this pen is a mic. They'll kind of do like this, and then kind of like this. Just direct people, you can kind of feel their voice coming through the mic. That is a pretty... That trick will work pretty much a lot of times, unless they're one of the ones like Malcolm in our group, who's pretty forceful, but he can't shut his mouth. So that's another way to find them, if they can't shut their mouth. But yeah, coming off informative.
And we went out to a lake party one July, and we were just having a good time. And there was like a swimming pool, and it was on a cliff, and the cliff was above the lake. And basically, people were getting drunk and jumping off the cliff into the lake. And tons of people were doing it, so it seemed completely reasonable. And I even asked Josh, I was like, is this safe? Do people do this all the time? And he was like, yeah, people do it all the time. I was like, okay. And a couple hours later, I went up to the house to get a snack.
It's all progression.
Came back, got distracted, came back.
This progression, got distracted, any user.
Back down maybe 10, 20 minutes later, and there were ambulances, fire trucks, police everywhere.
This is all first person.
And
that's
the party completely stopped. And long story short, in that like 20 minutes I was in the house,
This guy got his goddamn shoes off. Look at this. Oh, both of them do. Okay. Look at this guy. He is like, oof. He's standing there.
Josh had jumped in and drowned. And, you know, not only that proximity to death, obviously that proximity to death is always a wake-up call of your own mortality and all the things that you take for granted in your life. There was something fundamentally shocking about the randomness of it, and just the tragic proportions of it. I mean, the guy was like 21. We're literally just laughing and drinking beers together like 30 minutes prior.
He's giving a lot of extra information. We're almost ready to say he's informative. He's looking away he's talking away from the mic and everything. We're ready to go ahead and call him informative.
And then
we'll break that down.
Gone. And for my young brain, it really just like scrambled kind of everything I thought I knew about life, and went into like a pretty intense depression for most of that year, trying to sort it out. And but it was interesting because I eventually came out of it. It's cliche to put it this way, but like very much like a carpe diem, like, dude, stop wasting your life. Like, what the hell are you doing? You know, and stop smoking pot every day. Start studying. Like, pick something that you're gonna pursue and like actually go pursue it. And it ended up being. It ended up having, I don't want to say it was a blessing, but it ended up having very positive consequences in my life.
Consequences. That's any. I'm hitting for informative. Okay, so there's the two metrics here is informative versus abstract. Not abstract. Informative versus direct. So if you're specific, concise, and to the point when you talk, you're gonna go into direct category, and that eliminates 8 types. That's the informative types. And if you are informative, that means beating around the bush, passive, kind of like talking away from things like that or whatever, giving extra information. You don't like to actually tell people what to do. You're more like want to give them information and allow them to choose. That's going to be informative. So with that being said, Mark Manson is informative. So let's go and hit him for that. So that eliminates 8 types. Okay, he's not direct, so he cannot be a direct type. Go back here. So based off the chart here, all the informative types are eliminated. That means, all the direct types are eliminated. INFJ, ENFJ, INTJ, ENTJ, ISTJ, ESTJ, ISTP, and ESTP gone. Okay. It's looking like he's progression as well. So we'll be down to 4.
And I think also experiencing such an immediate tragedy that early.
Experiencing, that's SI. I think that's TI. He's not referencing other people thinking at all.
Early in my life, it made me. I find that most people, period, don't like to think about death, but especially young people. And I think it forced me at a very young age to start considering a lot of these questions. And it eventually kind of sent me down more of a contemplative / spiritual / philosophical path in my life.
Okay, so I'm gonna hit him for abstract there. Yeah.
And yeah, it was very formative. One of the most formative things that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, I could only imagine. I think so often we just overlook the gift of what it means to have a life, to be human.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we need to experience. Well, it can be fortunate that we experience those unfortunate things in our life, whether it's a death of a loved one or a serious illness or something that like really is that wake up call that like shakes us and like, yo, bro, human, you're alive in this body, and like you can radically transform yourself into a new way of operating and existing within yourself. But oftentimes, a lot of people need to go through those tragedies to experience them.
Yeah, and the weird thing about death too is that we treat it like this very rare, horrible thing when it's actually like literally the most common thing on earth. Yeah.
That's a fact.
It's like one of.
I'm gonna hit him with TI there. That's a fact.
Maybe only a handful of experiences that we are all going to have at some point, and we're all going to lose loved ones at some point. We're all going to have tragedy at some point. Yet, I find that most of us, most of the time, we kind of like delude ourselves into thinking that it's this very rare, horrible thing that, you know, if we don't talk about it, then it won't happen. But I have found that the opposite is actually the case, that you should think about these things. Like,
I found the opposite, T.I.
Like, my wife and I have had conversations before where we have both said, it's like, yeah, it's uncomfortable how much I imagine you dying, because, and it's a horrible thought, but I have it frequently, and it's almost like mentally preparing yourself for the possibility.
Okay, so he's mentally preparing himself for the possibility. That's NE, and that's abstract.
But B, it's
Write
also
down what if scenario. That's a what if scenario.
It prevents you from taking them for granted. It prevents me from taking my marriage for granted. It's like every day, even if I didn't sleep well, even if, you know, she's nagging me about the trash or whatever, it can like remind me of like, this is one of the most important things in my life, you know, so don't overlook that.
If this then that, it's T.I. again.
The egoic human mind, that is really one of the only things that's actually separate from all of the other existence around us, is the suffering of that separation. I feel like makes us fear our own death, right? But like you were speaking to, it's so common, it's so prevalent. Everything is going to experience it. Every living being will at some point. But what I'm also really interested in is,
I don't know why this guy is giving me NFJ vibes. I get NFJ energy from him, and more INFJ than ENFJ.
How can we not just wait for those big tragic moments, but how can we in this moment have a perspective shift that allows an old identities to die and experience death in that? Because we are experiencing in ourselves, in our body, deaths every single moment.
Sure.
Many, we're just not aware of.
Yeah, he's abstract for sure.
And so as you've been on this path of supporting a lot of people in an industry that has been super saturated, but you found a way to really break through with a clear and unique voice, because you're very creative in your writing capabilities. Like, it's a beautiful gift that you have, largely to really support people into breaking this habit of who they've been and the way that they've, kind of viewed life. And so what have you learned about, either in your own path, but then also in supporting others, have these kind of mini deaths of who we perceive ourselves to be?
It's a great question, because I think, well, first of all, I think there's a lot of value in just developing kind of a mental habit of a thought experiment of, if I died today, or if I died tomorrow, what would I think about my life? Or if I knew I had a month to live, what would I think about my life? Like, I think these are useful questions.
I think that's abstract.
Ask yourself. And I think there's a reason, whether you look at Buddhism or the Stoics, like, it is that those questions are a fundamental part of those practices, and they've been around for thousands of years. To your question about identity, that's something I've been banging on that drum quite a bit, especially when I got started early in my career. So, everybody wants to change something about themselves. Everybody wants to improve somehow. And I...
Talking about what people want, that's NE, and that's enough to close out SINE. Okay, with that being said, SINE is closed off. That eliminates the types of ESFP and ISFP are eliminated now, because they're SE users and they're the informative SE users. So we're down to ESFJ, ENTP, ENFP, ISFJ, INTP, and INFP. Okay, it's coming off like a TI user, so we'll be down to 4 types. It's coming off progression, so we'll be down to 2 types. We're looking like we'll be down to ESFJ and ENTP. But he's also abstract, so it's looking like we're going to be headed to ENTP.
I found this kind of the conventional personal development approach to, quote unquote, improving yourself or changing yourself was a little bit naive. Like, it was all about this cool new habit or persona or skill that you were going to adopt for yourself, and oh my God, isn't your life going to be amazing? And one of the things I started writing about a long time ago is that for a real fundamental identity level shift to happen, it's not sufficient to simply adopt something new into your identity. You also have to kill off something old. And when you kill off
that's abstraction.
Old part of yourself, there's a grieving process that you go through, even if it's like a terrible it's a terrible thing. Like when I stopped partying, which was horrible for me, and I like wasn't enjoying for years when I
suffering.
stopped, there was a grieving process of like, who am I? If I'm not the party guy, who am I? If I'm not...
You ain't got no identity, buddy. F.I. Trickster, huh?
The one drinking with my friends, like, why are my friends with me, right? Like, there's...
Wait, did we catch it if that then this? Oh, why you friends with you, bro? You hit your own friends with T.I., you a nasty.
Process of like, who am I? If I'm not the party guy, who am I? If I'm not...
If not this...
The one drinking with my friends, like, why are my friends with me, right?
T.I., okay, he's T.I.F.E. Okay. Why are my friends with me? Okay. So we got him, T.I.F.E. With that being said, that eliminates ENFP and INFP. We're down to 4 types, the SFJs and the NTPs. It's coming off abstract,
right? Like there's all these very uncomfortable and
SSI
kind of sad questions that pop up, even when you eliminate a negative part of your identity. So I've long written that identity change is not simply like, hey, check out this new cool habit I've got, aren't I amazing? It's like, no, there's a sadness when you let an old aspect of yourself go, and that sadness is okay.
In the personal development work,
woo, it's coming off like Enneagram. What?
World, I think partly also because of how plugged we all are on social media, seeing everybody's highlight reels constantly, but we think that like self-improvement and growth is just like, we just see the end result, we see the outcome, we see the puppies, rainbows, and butterflies. I think in reality, to get to that point, it's a lot of the opposite. It's a lot of purging.
It can be a lot of painful purging. It can be a lot of kind of existential questions of like, who am I? Will I still matter? Will people still love me? And there's also a lot of boredom too, which also doesn't get publicized very often because it's boring. Yeah, because it's boring, right? But it's, a lot of personal change is just very dull. Like it's crossing your T's and dotting your I's and, making very mundane decisions consistently.
We just don't glorify those, right? But it's like, it's what we do in the dark that shines in the light. Mm-hmm. Nobody saw you for years and years writing behind the scenes before you had this big breakthrough, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's like, whoa, this dude's an amazing author. Like, you should check him out. This new guy has this beautiful new gift and sharing it in this way. And it's like, but do you understand the years, the decades of who you've been and the skill set you've developed and the life experience that you've gone through?
Yeah. It's I experienced a lot of that when Subtle Art took off, because that was my first book in the publishing world. And so in the publishing world, I was this hot new talent that had just been discovered, and oh my God, look how many copies he's selling. Where did he come from? And I used to do like media interviews, and they would ask me, they're like, wow, how does it feel to be an overnight success? And I'm like, bro, I've been doing this for like 9 years. Like this obscure blog on the internet. You just never heard of me until a month ago.
Yeah. It's so interesting, right? All the things that come with that level of impact and success. Like to one of the largest degrees you can have success with the book, right? You experience with that. It's beautiful for your work to get recognized. It's exciting for the ideas that you cherish and that you value and that you think are important to be planted, those seeds to be planted in the minds of millions and millions of people. That's got to feel so rewarding. What have you learned on the other side of the success and the impact about how it's actually correlated or not with your own happiness? Because a lot of people think they're just so intrinsically interwoven, and that's not always the case.
I think about it on 2 levels. So there's kind of like, for lack of a better term, a macro level, right? Which is, well, let me start on the micro level. So the micro level is that, yes, success is great and it brings a lot of joy into your life, but it also brings a lot of challenges and unexpected. A lot of those challenges are very unexpected, and they kind of like blindside you a little bit. And so there are periods during success that it can be very difficult. And I think for certain people, depending on their background, how old they are, that it can even be a little bit of a curse. Like, you know, we all know of stories of people who got famous too young and bad things happen.
Yeah.
So there is that. Like, on the micro level, there are challenges. On the macro level, it's like I would never trade it. Like, there were years in the last 5 years that I struggled a lot, and it kind of messed with me. But at no point would I ever be like, yeah, I want to go back and not be successful. I want to go back to, like,
right.
you know, asking my girlfriend for rent money. You know,
Right.
like there's none of that. So.
There is that glorification of the old days too, which is like totally
There's a nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
Of like,
but in reality, it sucked a lot too.
it was horrible. It's, so the most accurate way I can answer this is
the most accurate way I can answer this, T.I.
simply that, like, yes, success will make your life better on the whole, but it's not like a linear thing. Like, there's a roller coaster, and yeah, it trends upward, but there are down months and years, and it can complicate a lot of problems in your life as much as it solves problems in your life.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure you've had to continually redefine what success in general even means to you, because we're talking about it in the traditional sense of, you know, having career impact, right?
Sure.
And prosperity in that sense, but you could be immensely successful in your career but feel like a failure internally, you know, and oftentimes those are the driving mechanisms to get to that place in the first way. So how is your definition of what success really means turned into becoming something that's just more holistic? And
I think one of the things that got me in trouble is, and I think this is a mistake a lot of people make, is having too narrow of a definition of success for myself. Maybe
talking about definition. It's gonna be T.I. again. Did we hit him for T.I. yet? Did we hit him? Did we hit him? Yeah, we did. Okay. So he's coming off progression. He's not talking about outcomes.
Not defining it on multiple metrics. You know, I think the same way it's
metrics, systematic. He probably said some systematic stuff.
This is gonna be a cheesy metaphor, but like the same way.
Cheesy metaphor, that's abstract. Okay, we're hitting it for abstract. That's enough points to hit it for abstract. So when we break this down, abstract is talking about the what if, philosophies, things outside of the five senses. If you are concrete, you're staying mostly in reality, five senses. What is, as an abstract, people are breaking down philosophies, theories, hypotheses, that type of thing. And we already hit him for informative. We talked about that. We hit him for SI versus NE. He's not talking about his path. He's talking about what other people want. He's talking about his suffering, what he endeavored. He's coming from a first person perspective. So it's going to be more SI. And then he's using TIFE, like he's talking about the most accurate way to do something, or that was correct, or breaking it down into something like that, or if this then that statements. So that's going to be TIFE. So we're down to two types now. We're down to ENTP. Okay. And INTP. And he's coming off progression. So with that being said, it's most likely going to be this guy. But we're going to hit him for an Enneagram 4. So we're getting a lot with these guys. So let's finish.
Anyway, you need to diversify an investment portfolio so that, you know, if the price of oil collapses tomorrow, you're not screwed, or if
this then that, that's more TI.
The US stock market collapses, you're not screwed. I think you need to diversify.
You hear him? When he talks, he's always saying, I think. He's not thinking about, like, he's not referencing sources, outside statistics, facts, or anything. It's literally his thinking.
Value system and how you define success for yourself. Like, you need to create success metrics. You need to create multiple success metrics.
Talking about metrics, that's going to be more of a progression thing. Milestones, metrics, benchmarks, progression.
Yourself. And I think I was so driven back then because I was young, I had a chip on my shoulder, I was like and back then it's like
all first person, mama suffering.
creators got zero respect. Like I understand they're still kind of overlooked these days, but it's like there were no doors open anywhere. Like it was like, oh, you have a blog, like good for you, you know? And so there was a big chip on our shoulder back then of like being one of the first people to have a door open to you in traditional media and taking it, and then it works. So like my definitions of success were very kind of conventional metrics of like, how many readers does my blog have? How much money is coming in each month? How many books am I selling? Am I on the New York Times list or not?
Those are numbers.
And that's fine. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong. I think those kind of like external materialistic metrics get a bad rap sometimes. I think it's fine to have those. It's fun to have those in a lot of cases. It's just that you can't only have those. You need to also have this other set of success metrics for yourself. Of impact, of meaning, of fostering community for yourself. And I definitely overlooked that.
You said it's FE or affiliative on that
10 years ago, for sure. And I ended up paying the price for that, because once you hit the worldly materialistic metrics, you get a trophy, you get a big check in your bank account, and then you wake up, you're still the exact same person. And you're like, oh shit, now what do I do? So if you haven't built up those other success metrics, if you haven't built a strong community around yourself, if you're not having impact on people, like if you're not doing something you feel is very meaningful every day, then you're going to feel a little bit lost. And I definitely did for a while, for sure.
That shift, because contrary to the initial perception, maybe seeing the title of the first book,
skip around a little bit.
There's going to be dots all over the chart, stretching 50, 60 years into the future. He's like, you don't even know if... I was like, if I just get like the next couple projects out of the way and watch them do 10% as well as this last project, it's going to hurt and I'm going to be really sad about it, but it's okay. Life will go on. And I'll get over it. And I think that's more or less what happened. It's just coming to terms with like, yeah, this crazy outsized thing happened in my life. It doesn't need to define me. It doesn't need to be who I am. Like one of the best conversations, so this kind of ties back into like having a good network around you. Yeah. Some of my best friends are psychologists and therapists, and I had dinner with a friend one night who's a therapist, and I was kind of telling him like how stuck I felt. And he was like, look, you're thinking about your life in terms of like if it's a chart, you have all these like little experiences down here, and then you have this one experience up here, and you're like freaking out that nothing's ever going to be that high again. And he's like, but you have to realize that there's going to be dots all over the chart stretching 50, 60 years into the future. He's like, you don't even know if that's the highest or not. Your metrics of how you measure success could completely change, and that becomes one of the lowest dots, right? Like, yeah. So he's like, you're assuming all these things are true about your life that you actually have no idea if they're true or not. And all you can do is just keep showing up and doing the work and putting out stuff that feels good and important at the time. And so I did, and it was just in that process of working and trying to focus on what it was true and important to me and not trying to match the previous success that eventually kind of liberated me.
It's so interesting. I think not a lot of people very few people are able to experience that form, I guess, of depression that comes by massive success, And I think it's interesting to see how when you have that level of success, you realize how important it was for you because you put so much of your self-worth on reaching that same level, or like you just realize how much weight you've been putting on to your career, and like who you are and the things that you find meaningful all kind of attached to external appreciation.
Totally.
And when that's up for grabs and you don't know which direction that's going to go into, it's like it becomes unsettling. For individuals that maybe on the other side, maybe they don't have any success, they feel like there's nothing positive coming into their life externally, they just feel like an internal kind of hole, and they wake up and they're just like not motivated. I think one of the biggest things that I just want to, state again that you shared was like how important it is to be surrounded by individuals and have that network. Because like, we're fortunate enough to be in the space where we can have friends that are therapists and psychologists, and that's beautiful. But then also just cultivating community. It's like we're so isolated to such a large degree that we don't really realize comparatively to how like we biologically have evolved.
Yeah.
But what general advice have you given that you've seen supported for individuals that are kind of on that side of things?
Well, it's funny. So I always feel weird when I talk about this on podcasts, right? Because what is more unrelatable than a guy who like sold 10 million books and then got depressed? Like I always feel like, oh, boo-hoo, poor me, right? But
yeah.
What
See?
amazes me,
Boo-hoo, poor me, from
like a psychological perspective, what amazes me is that the exact same thing fixes it on both ends, right? When your life changes positively so fast that it scrambles your identity and fucks your ego and puts you into a depression, or whether your life goes wrong so fast it scrambles your identity and fucks your ego and puts you into depression, the solution's exactly the same. You show up, you focus on small wins, piece by piece.
Small wins, that's progression. All right, we're done.
Yourself by some good people, and you take it step by step. And
step by step progression.
Slowly do the work of disidentifying from that massive event that happened, and realizing that doesn't necessarily define your life or define who you are, which is crazy. It's the same in both directions. And so to me, it almost, this is why I've written about how like the directionality almost doesn't even matter. Like what fucks with our heads is the magnitude of change. Like our psychology seems to only be kind of prepped for a certain amount of change at a time. And when we exceed that rate of change, when something so massive and drastic changes our lives so quickly, whether it's tragic or super fortunate, it takes us a couple years to like mentally catch up and redefine ourselves and redefine our values and understand like what we're going to pursue and what we're going to care about. So to me, that I don't know. That's just maybe it's just me, but
See, that's informative. He just went on a fucking tangent.
I find that really fascinating.
Absolutely. Regardless, like that in your book as well, you spoke to the backwards law, right?
Yeah.
And how I would love for you just to dive into a little bit more why negativity is kind of the pathway to positivity, because a lot of times.
Oh goddamn! Negativity passport to the. Oh god, that's some fucking SP. For shit, man. SP4.
This is in modern society that we live. We just have so many things.
Oh
backwards.
God. Yeah.
No suffering.
In terms of, if we want a more positive experience of life, let's just chase more positive feeling experiences. Oftentimes that pain comes on the other side, right? So it's like choosing the pain first, kind of flips that on its head in its way. So why is that such a fundamental perspective shift that we should have if we want to actually have a positive experience of life?
Yeah. Well, I think, so the backwards law, for people who haven't read the book, it's, I describe it as, it actually comes from Alan Watts, but I kind of simplified it and...
I simplify it, T.I.
crammed it into one sentence, which is the pursuit...
The ability to cram it into one sentence, T.I.
Positive experience is itself a negative experience, and the acceptance of a negative experience is itself a positive experience. And I think what a lot of people get in trouble with is, as you said, they are so fixated on pursuing positive experiences that they actually make themselves miserable because they're constantly reinforcing and reminding themselves of everything they don't have, and which is just kind of the most fundamental definition of suffering in Buddhism.
See, fundamental definition, T.I., abstract.
Whereas it's
we're done,
acceptance of,
ENTP.
Like, life is pain, this is difficult,
SP4.
don't resist it, it's going to be okay. That mental experience in and of itself becomes liberating. And I think it's particularly important in the modern world because so much of the modern world is geared and optimized around pursuing the thing you want, right? So it's like
optimization, systematic.
Like, if you want a degree, it's
if you want any,
here are the steps to go get it. If you want to build a business, here are the steps to go get it. If you want to find a relationship, here are the steps to go do it. It's like in everything else in our life, you have this established goal, and then you just kind of like figure out what the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8
progression
are to get to that thing. That works for everything in life except for our own internal state. It's like, if I decide I want to be happy, okay, what are the steps to happiness? Okay, I gotta do these 8 things to be happy. I'm making myself miserable. Just by thinking about that, I am actively making myself miserable. So it's when it comes to our internal states, everything is backwards. It's, if you want to be happy, then don't chase happiness. If you want to stop being sad, let yourself be sad. It's very difficult to logically kind of wrap your head around it, but when you experience it, and I think this is a lot of like, you know, what meditation is kind of training you to do, is when you experience it, you see how it works, and you kind of develop a skill of being able to relax into it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're gonna close that up there. He's ENTP, SP4 most likely. Definitely believes in that more suffering. So with that being said, he is an ENTP, Enneagram SP4. Okay. So he's initiating. He's abstract. He's systematic. He's pragmatic. He's progression. We kind of broke that down very well. Progression is like looking at benchmarks, milestones, the steps to do something, while outcome is just the end product and looking at the end product. Progression's goal likes to enjoy the journey. Outcome people are looking at the end product. If they don't get the outcome, then everything else is trash. Like, I get so outcome driven sometimes. Like, let's say we go out, me and my buddies go out. This is horrible. I hate to say this on video, but if we don't like have a great time, or we don't like have like just a ball, if we don't get girls and stuff, then I'm like, man, that whole night was trash, you know. But my friend who's progression is like, oh man, you know, it was fun, blah blah blah. I'm like, fuck that, we ain't accomplished nothing, you know. So it's like outcome versus progression there. So he's an ENTP, 4SP. This is fun. I hope you see this video, man. I know you asked for this a while ago. But yeah, this is Mongolian Mindset. I hope you guys have a great day, and like, comment, subscribe, and tell me what you thought his personality was below. And we're out.